told you to quiet down, but now you wear a crown. Visionary queen with a spark.
Welcome to You Matter in Business with Ariel Faith, your brand, your story, and your success, because you matter in your business. I wanted to talk after listening to Michelle Perez for the last couple weeks. I wanted to talk to you about something that I find really interesting when it comes to branding. I'm going to call it the mirror moment. So there is a time when you realize that what you're putting in front of the world, or what you see in a photograph, or what you see in a mirror, is not who you are on the inside. And for all women, that's kind of a scary place, and we have to navigate through it. Happens at different phases in different women, but it's kind of like this. You know, when you're feeling that feeling when you get dressed for an important meeting or event or whatever, and nothing, it just doesn't feel right. The clothes, they fit, but they just don't feel like they fit you anymore. That's exactly what happens even in your photos. So, today we're going to be talking about that mirror moment when your soul literally outgrows your photos. So, the first thing I want to talk about is this like aha moment that we have in life. You know, I remember when I was a child, I used to hold my mother's hand and I would look at her hand in my hand. And I never said this out loud, but I think it. My hand was nice and smooth and her hand was not so smooth. And then there was a time when I was holding my grandchild's hand and I looked down and I went, "Oh my God, I have my mother's hands." So my hand was now the old hand. And it's like, oh my goodness. And then there's a time when you look in the mirror and you're like, who are you? I don't remember looking like this. Your face starts falling and lines show up. And, it's bad enough when you're a teenager and things show up. But so now you're at this age where you have tons of wisdom. You've grown immensely as a professional and you have life experience. You've raised children or you're in the process of it. And you just have achieved so many things. But then when that moment that you look in that mirror or you look at that photograph that you just had taken and you just cringe, or you want to put out a photograph that's 20 years old because you look better 20 years old again, or you think you look better 20 years ago. So this is all about perception and our feelings. So I just wanted to say that, that's a moment that I've experienced several times in my life. So being visible in a business and in your presence as you grow and as you mature can be a challenge. So why is it such a different experience once you hit 40, 45, 50, etc.? One of the things that happens it's typically most women have done a lot of inner work at this point. They've done personal development, they have those life experiences. And then they kind of settle back into feeling like they're them again, especially after their children are gone and they now have time to think about more than just the needs of everyone around them. So this is kind of giving them space to think, because now they know they're finally in a room that they belong in. And their wisdom shows up in their eyes in ways that it didn't before. There might be a spark of life that's there and it'll never go away. So there's certain things that happen at this stage where you settle in a lot of things about yourself and your own value. But when someone asks you for a headshot, you cringe inside. It's like, oh no. The moment is, who is that? When you see an old photograph, or where is she? I want her back, which is also a reality for a lot of us women. We'd love to be 20 again. But these old photos are like wearing a bridesmaid's dress to your own wedding. So you are dressed in something that no longer belongs, is no longer fitting. And technically, it might be fine, but completely wrong for who you are now. So let that sink in for a moment. Your inner transformation has outpaced your outer image. and your soul knows it. That's that feeling that something just doesn't fit. It no longer works. And it is okay that it no longer works. So again, let's think about that thought for a minute before we move on to the next point. But your inner transformation, so all the work you've done inside, has outpaced your outer image of yourself. And your soul knows it. That gut is telling you something's off. So we need to pull that together and get that aligned. We need to see the new woman, the growing, metamorphosing butterfly that you have become. So, what really happens in this stage is there's a ton of resistance because some of these things we don't really like. And let's be honest, none of us like getting older looking. None of us like gray hair, although it can be very pretty. None of us like weight we can't get rid of. None of us like our skin's lack of elasticity. Of course, depending on how much melanin and you have in your skin, you may have this problem more versus less. I find that quite humorous, and then we have this inner dialogue at this point where we have this resistance. So picture this. Okay, you're finally ready to update your photos. And your heart is saying, okay, yes, I know it's time. It's time for me to present me as me because I am a speaker, I am a coach, I am an expert, I am all these things that it's taken you 30, 40, 50 years to get to. And you finally get to that point where you're like, yes, I need to do that. But before you even research a photographer, your mind crashes the party like a friend who's always looking for the trouble. It's almost like your own mental Eeyore. But what if you gain weight before the session? What if you don't know your brand colors? What if you can't afford the right photographer? All these what ifs, but they're negative what ifs. What if can be a great question to ask yourself, but these tend to be the inner dialogue, the drama in our head is not taking us down a nice path. But here's the really practical reality check. What you're actually doing, instead of getting that professional photo shoot that knows how to use light to emphasize your beauty and to diminish the qualities you don't like about yourself, the right pose, light, all those things really contribute to that dramatic difference between seeing yourself as we see you, because we're three-dimensional objects. Photograph is two-dimensional. So when we are not taking advantage of the light qualities, the different aspects of that a professional photographer knows how to do, at least hope so, and they have the equipment to do it, we do things like, okay, we're doing our selfies. We're taking pictures of ourselves in the bathroom. Now, is that professional? We might change the background, but you can see the little lines like I have on my virtual screen where it kind of leaks through. Oh, see, my hair disappeared. Whoa, we see that kind of stuff, right? See how this is. Oh, you can't see because this is a podcast. Ha ha. Sorry. That was kind of humorous. Anyway, so one of the things that happens when we do selfies is because we don't have that skill in lighting, we'll use harsh overhead lighting that creates more shadow under our eyes, weird angles from our phone. So if we use a wide angle on your phone, you're going to get distortion on the edges that makes you look distorted, bigger, wider. And if you're in a group shot and you're on the end in a wide angle shot, you are not going to look very nice. So
Behind the lens, crafting tales and news.
bring your marketing, your brand to life with storytelling and strategy. Cut through the noise with clear messaging and compelling visuals that resonate with your ideal client. We bring strategy, story, and visuals to help you with your marketing. Visit arieljoyfaith.com and schedule a consultation and see how we can help you bring your brand to
No
life.
selfies here, just genuine sight. Authenticity in every light.
Some of these things, the background is louder than you are. So there's so many things to this process of doing professional photographs for your brand that really take you to a level of professionalism, which we all know what it looks like, and it is attainable in today's world. Now, you might have a hobbyist photographer friend, which is fine, or somebody who's willing to do it for $25, your neighbor with a nice camera, but no business experience, no marketing experience, doesn't understand the purpose behind the images or what message you're trying to send. You might get pretty pictures, but they missed your professional presence that you have earned. Oh, and that wide angle lens distortion, it can be very mean because you can look warped, unflattered, and your soul knows that it isn't how you really look. So here's what I really want you to hear. What if that resistance isn't about the photos at all? What if your soul is actually protecting you from showing up as someone you're not anymore? The resistance to generic posed, look professional photos is actually wisdom. Those headshots that all look the same, they're more documentary than they are emotional. So it is okay to want photos that actually reflect who you've become. And it is okay to feel misaligned with old images. You can hold out for the right approach and find the right photographer that fills the approach that you want. So, one of the things I think that's important when you do this is not just, again, it's not just about the photograph. It's not just about the photography session. It's not just about the money because these experiences, especially when women are older, I see this time and time and time again. And it is, to me, one of the reasons I do the work I do. There is a transformation and a ripple effect. When a client spends time and they tell me that they've been using the same headshot for 5, 10, 20 years. And then sometimes they say, I kind of feel like I'm lying because if I show up at the door, I don't look like that anymore. So it doesn't feel real. The whole point of a photograph is so that when you show up, they know who you are, flaws and all. So that really kind of hit me that we need to match that inner reality with everything that's changing. You stop apologizing for taking up, space or showing up the way you are. It doesn't mean you don't try to look your best and have a professional image. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the effect that being who you are has and being okay with who you are. The effect that seeing your beauty at every stage of your life. I had the opportunity to photograph a woman for a magazine that was in her 90s. And it was probably one of my favorite shoots. And I will tell you why. Because this woman had lived life. And it was obvious she had physical and, typical issues that women have or all people have in their 90s. She had a family that loved her. She had memories. It was just so amazing to see all of this come through in her photo shoot and to allow her to dance in her age. It was a beautiful experience and one I actually hope to have more of because I think that capturing the older generations in a personality way is really a beautiful gift to the family. But one of the things for business, that was more of a personal thing, but one of the things for business is when we authentically identify the visual qualities that we're trying to portray and what we can show through proper lighting, proper composition, and then value driven choices. So in other words, it's there's a plan of action of what is being photographed and why. So those things show wisdom in your eyes. They don't just eliminate wrinkles. It's not a perfection. They might be diminished through editing, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. Smile lines are there for a reason. And then thoughtful composition. Having a position or a pose or being in a lifestyle scene where you are comfortable, your posture's comfortable, you are comfortable will show up in a photograph versus if you're being contorted by poses that make you uncomfortable, that will come across through your face. And then the value-driven choices are the ones that how you choose to be photographed, showing what you believe is good and what you want to present in your marketing material, what you want to present to the world. So that has to be taken in consideration. It's not just a snapshot of you. Practice is the practical difference of why that matters. A couple reasons, and this is more about photography than anything, but there are certain focal lengths that are much more flattering and natural. They look more like you do in real life. And there are certain lenses that will actually distort a person going too long or going too short. And then there are lighting that is huge. It can be warm, it can be cool, it can be harsh, it can be soft. All of those things matter. And some lighting flatters, others just shows every flaw that ever existed on your face or anywhere else. And then there's intentional environments. So think about an intentional environment. I'm a brand who sells to luxury clients. I don't want to put myself in McDonald's and take a branding shoot because I'm not selling to the McDonald's market. So an upscale boutique city where you're walking down the streets and you pick the environments that match your audience, that's going to resonate with your audience. So they're intentional. They're not random. Oh, this is a great shot. No, they're intentional. They have more than just a message for you. They share your life, they share your goals, your priorities, your loves, your values, all of that in a single photograph. So you having a strategic method for this when you're having one of those mirror moments where you just don't feel like you resonate anymore is really important, especially the older you get. So then you have to say, it's okay to invest in being seen as who you are now in all your beauty. It's okay to outgrow your old visual identity. And I've worked with people who were models. One of the women I had the chance of photographing was a extremely she still is an incredibly beautiful woman in her 60s and probably her late 60s. She's still incredibly beautiful. But she was a model in France and all of the major magazines in the 60s and 70s, a major high successful model. And she knew how to pose because she had done it so long, but it was still a matter of getting the right lighting, getting all the other things, and seeing what message she wanted to say. So it is okay that we are not that 20-year-old or the 30-year-old that she was in those magazines, because she's an absolutely stunning person, even in her older years. And if you want professional photographs to match your professional growth, I really tell you to put this in your budget. And it's not just for me, it's for any other branding photographer, portrait photographer, anyone that's going to be able to get you what you need for your business. People who are just, I don't say are just, they just have specialized in families, they've specialized in weddings. They may be wonderful photographers, absolutely beautiful, and they might do an incredibly beautiful job. I can't say that they can or can't. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm just saying there's a marketing component that if they're not aware of and they didn't educate themselves in, they might miss the mark a little. And then you'll feel frustrated. And none of us want you to feel frustrated. We want you to be happy with these images. We want you to be able to use them. And we want you to be able to walk away from one day and literally have a year's worth of you that you can share, if not two. After that, it starts like I had my branding shoot 2 years ago coming up. And I know I need another one because I decided to not be quite as bold of a redhead because nature's arguing with me. And there's this thing I can't stand about red hair is a really big pain in the butt to color. It either is way too red or it fades really, really fast. So it's annoying. And the bold red is what I can't handle. The all I think of is those little old ladies with that bold red hair. And you're like, that looks so terrible, but nobody will tell them. Anyway, so I'm trying not to mimic that. Those are my own inner fears. I don't want to be that lady. So I shared with you a very vulnerable moment in there. So here's what I want you to remember from this episode. There's a disconnect when you feel when you look at your old photos, and it isn't about vanity or perfectionism. It's about integrity. Your soul is telling you the truth. Those images don't represent who you become. The woman staring back at you from those old photographs and the one that stares back at you in the mirror, they don't align anymore. She was doing her best with what she knew then, and she might have exteriorly looked good, even though mentally she was a mess. But you're not her anymore. Well, you really are, but you've grown, you've evolved, you've done the inner work that shows up in how you carry yourself and how you show up in the world, and especially how you help others. Now, next week, we're going to dive into what your heart knows about being seen that your mind keeps arguing with. Because being seen sometimes is the biggest challenge. It isn't the photographs, it's the actual being seen. There's a whole group of people who are like faceless branding or something like that. And the point is, they don't want to be in camera. So there's an inner battle that they're fighting. We're going to talk about that next week because this self image and some of these things get in our way, not just in our business, but in our life. So until then, ask yourself this simple question: do my photos show who I was or who I am becoming? Because you matter in business to the real you right here, right now. See you next episode. After all, it is your brand, your story, and your success because I know that you matter in business. Thank you for listening to You Matter in Business podcast. Please follow, share, like, and comment. I would love to hear from you. This podcast is sponsored by Ariel Faith Storytelling Marketing and Your Brand Photographer. The show notes provide more information on how to contact Ariel and more information about this episode. Thank you again.
They told you to quiet down, but now you wear a crown. Visionary queen with a spark, lighting up the dark. Rediscover your own fire, chase the dreams that lift you higher. Redefine your role today, brand new in every way. Build your confidence through my lens, break the walls you put up since. Embrace your power, hear your roar. You are meant for so much more. You are meant for so much more.